Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. We're looking at a scenario today that honestly reads like a Hollywood thriller, but it is grounded in very real and very terrifying science. Today, we are unpacking the mystery of a ghost cruise ship that was entirely paralyzed by an unseen enemy. We're going to decode the history, the biology, and the sheer unpredictability of hantavirus. I'm going to walk you through exactly how this pathogen works so we can replace that initial fear with some actual solid understanding.
To really grasp the threat here, we've got to trace the timeline of this nightmare. Just imagine a luxury voyage setting sail on April 1st, 2026. You're leaving Ushuaia, Argentina, heading down toward Antarctica. It sounds like the absolute trip of a lifetime, right? But just 10 days in, a 70-year-old Dutch passenger suddenly falls ill and passes away on the ship. And the tragedy compounds when his wife, who disembarked with his body, also collapses and dies at an airport weeks later. Suddenly, the crew and passengers are trapped at sea as more people fall mysteriously ill, leading to a desperate May 2nd call to the World Health Organization.
The WHO's diagnosis sent absolute shockwaves around the globe: hantavirus. And the most terrifying aspect of this medical mystery? There's no FDA-approved vaccine. There is no proven antiviral cure. You are looking at a pathogen that literally stranded a luxury vessel in the middle of the ocean because no country wanted to risk letting it dock. So, what exactly is our culprit here? Well, hantavirus isn't just one rogue virus, it's a whole family of viruses. And its primary host isn't bats or mosquitoes, it's rodents. Different species of mice and rats carry different strains. And traditionally, humans are infected not by getting bitten, but simply by breathing in aerosolized particles from rodent droppings, urine, or saliva. Now, the way this virus attacks the human body is brutal, and it essentially splits into two distinct, devastating diseases depending on geography. We've got HFRS, primarily seen in Asia and Europe, which aggressively targets the kidneys and causes internal bleeding. And then there is HPS, the strain found in the Americas. HPS attacks the lungs, rapidly filling them with fluid, which tragically causes the patient to suffocate. The absolutely crucial thing to understand here is the severity. For the pulmonary strain found in the Americas, the mortality rate can reach a staggering 50%. Let that sink in for a second. Without a cure or a vaccine, survival basically comes down to aggressive supportive care in an ICU and the sheer strength of a patient's own immune system fighting it off. But to truly understand this virus, we kind of need to look back at its origins. The modern medical community first encountered this invisible enemy during the Korean War in the 1950s. Over 3,000 American and UN soldiers suddenly fell victim to a mysterious hemorrhagic fever. We're talking fever, internal bleeding, kidney failure, and a 15% mortality rate. For decades, doctors were just entirely baffled. They were wondering, is this a new disease? Is it a biological weapon? It took nearly 30 years to crack that cold case. In 1980, South Korean virologist Dr. Ho Wang Lee finally found the smoking gun. He successfully traced the mystery illness to a virus carried by striped field mice near the Hantan River, which, by the way, is exactly where the name hantavirus comes from. But the story of a hantavirus took its absolute most dramatic turn in May of 1993, right inside the Navajo Nation in the southwestern United States. Young, completely healthy people were suddenly dying of rapid respiratory failure. Within just a matter of weeks, 10 people had died, presenting an initial terrifying mortality rate of 75%. By mid-June, scientists identified a new pulmonary strain of hantavirus in the local deer mice. The environmental trigger here is just fascinating. Scientists were completely stumped until they listened to Navajo tribal elders, who already knew the signs. The elders explained this incredible chain reaction. A severe El Niño brought heavy rains, which led to a massive overproduction of pine nuts. That bumper crop caused the local rodent population to absolutely explode, drastically increasing human-to-mouse contact, and boom, that's what sparked the deadly outbreak. For the longest time, we assumed this virus was super localized, but a comprehensive multi-year study done in Vellore, India between 2005 and 2008 completely flipped that perspective. Researchers found hantavirus antibodies in 4% of the general population they tested. This was undeniable proof that various strains of this virus have just been quietly circulating globally, infecting people for decades right beneath the radar. Through all of this history, there was one comforting medical consensus, sort of the golden rule of hantavirus. The science rigidly stated that the virus could only jump from a rodent to a human. You could not catch it from your neighbor, your friend, or your family member. It was considered an environmental hazard, for sure, but not a contagious one. Now, here is the massive twist that totally rewrote the textbooks. In 1996, an outbreak in southern Argentina introduced us to the Andes strain. This specific strain shattered that golden rule. It is the single known strain in the entire hantavirus family capable of human-to-human transmission. But, bizarrely enough, nature provided a built-in safety switch. Unlike the flu or something, the window of time where an infected person can actually pass the Andes strain to someone else is incredibly narrow. On average, a patient is only contagious to others for a single day, right at the onset of their fever and illness. So, armed with this knowledge about the highly unique Andes strain, let's bring it back to our ghost ship. How does a rare, rodent-borne pathogen from South America manage to infiltrate a sealed luxury vessel full of international tourists and start spreading among the passengers? The investigation revealed just an absolute tragic stroke of bad luck. Just before boarding the ship in March, that Dutch couple we mentioned earlier went on a birdwatching tour in Ushuaia. And, well, that tour accidentally led them right through a rat-infested landfill. They contracted the Andes strain from the local rodents and then boarded the cruise ship perfectly within that microscopic one-day window where they were highly contagious to other humans. That single day of contagion in close quarters? It was more than enough. By the time the ship finally found a port willing to let them dock in Tenerife on May 10th, there were 10 confirmed cases. 3 people had tragically died, and several others had to be medically evacuated, fighting for their lives in ICUs across Europe and Africa. Now, when you hear about a virus with a 50% mortality rate, and you hear the words human-to-human transmission happening on a cruise ship, it is entirely natural to ask the big question: are we staring down the barrel of the next massive global pandemic? I want to be perfectly clear and impartial here, just looking strictly at the data. A pandemic scenario is highly unlikely. Why? Because unlike COVID-19 or the seasonal flu, hantavirus does not float freely through the air across a room. It demands intense, prolonged, and very close physical contact. It primarily spreads between intimate partners sharing a bed or family members deeply involved in caregiving, and again, it's all restricted by that incredibly narrow one-day window. Because those mechanics of transmission are so strict and unforgiving for the virus, the World Health Organization has officially assessed the global risk as low. This is a crucial, stabilizing fact. It cuts through those sensationalized headlines to remind us that while the virus is lethal to the individual, it is historically very poor at spreading through a wider population. But hey, a low global risk doesn't mean zero personal risk, right? With climate patterns like El Niño constantly threatening to spike rodent populations, just exactly like we saw in the 1993 Navajo outbreak, this explainer serves as a serious wake-up call. So, on a practical, everyday level, how do we actually protect ourselves and our homes? It really all comes down to removing the source. You have to seal the physical gaps in your home so mice literally cannot get in. If you are cleaning out a dusty garage, a shed, or a storage room where mice might have been, always wear an N95 mask and gloves. Seriously, do not just sweep and kick all that dust up into the air. Keep your food in hard, sealed containers and manage your garbage properly so you aren't laying out a buffet for rodents. Hantavirus is a silent threat that has been living quietly alongside humanity for decades. It is a stark reminder of how deeply connected our health is to changes in the environment and animal populations. By understanding its history, respecting the differences between its strains, and recognizing how it truly spreads, we can completely replace panic with actionable awareness. The tools for prevention are absolutely in your hands, but it forces us to ask, without a vaccine, are we truly ready to face the silent, invisible threats we live right alongside? Thank you for diving into this explainer with me.